Welcome to Minister Deb Before the Throne. I want to talk about today something that God has shared with me before. It's about the number 41. I don't know if any of you have heard people talk about, it's my 41, it's my 41, yay. They're talking about in the Bible, there are oftentimes the number 40 is used over and over and over. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not such a good thing. But when Noah, when God flooded the earth, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. What happened on the 41st day? It stopped raining. Then we talk about Isaac. He was 40 years old when he got married. He was old to get married, and on his 40 when he was married at the age of 40. And we know the Israelites, they were in the desert for 40 years. And what happened on the 41st year? They were taken to the promised land like they should have done years and years before. Sometimes in Judges, there's several odd things in Judges where the Israelites would do poorly. Someone would take over, and then there would be someone like Ehud who came in and was a savior, or not a savior, I shouldn't say that. He came in to rescue the Israelites. And so they would, that happened oftentimes. And then after, in this case, again, after Ehud that I talked about before, the land rested for 40 years, meaning for 40 years, the land was at rest. There was no war. There were no bad things happening. And the Israelites were doing well. But the one thing, and then there's a lot of times in Kings, 1st and 2nd Kings, where a king would take over, and he would be 41 years over when he took over the reign of the country. So at 41, yay, they became a king, right? So what I wanted to say today, yes, and Jesus was tempted in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And what happened on the 41st night? He was no longer fasting. He started his ministry. I see it as he went out, and on that day he got to eat some food. I could see him eating bacon and ho-hos. That's what I would eat if I was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. I know I'm just being silly, but I think bacon and ho-hos would be a good thing to eat after a fast. But and if you look up, I don't know if you guys know about looking up words in the Bible. You can go online. There's many online Bibles that you can use. There's one that's called Blue Line Bible, and it has two versions of the Bible that you can see at the same time. So you have a small column of, say, New King James, and over here would be maybe a New International Version, or whatever two versions that you would like to look at the same time. You can have a parallel Bible going at the same time. And oftentimes there's a search function there. So you can look up a word, and it will tell you how many times that word was used in that version of the Bible. So the Bible that I was looking up was New King James, and I looked up the word 40, and there were 146 mentions of the number 40 in the King James Bible, or the New King James Bible. So lots of times you can just look things up, and then you can find the words that you're looking for. So one of the things that just blew my mind, God showed me this a couple months ago with the number 40. We know that the Israelites were in the wilderness for 40 years. That means on the 41st year, they went into the promised land. They ate manna, the same thing for 40 years. And then when they got close to the promised land, they were still on the other side of the Jordan, or they still hadn't crossed the Jordan. They got to eat the food of the land, whatever the food they had going on in the land. And they got to eat fruits and vegetables and all kinds of things on the 41st year after being in the desert, or in the wilderness, for 40 years. But one of the things I was reading in Numbers 33, verses 1 through 49. And as I told you, I've been reading the Bible, and whatever captures my attention, that's what I look at. So in Numbers 33, 1 through 49, it started to list every single place that the Israelites camped while they were in the wilderness. It literally would say they camped at Jericho, near whatever place it would be. They camped here, they camped there. Sometimes they said how long they camped, sometimes it doesn't. And I started to write them down in my journal. I just thought, well, I'm just going to write them all down. I have no idea why I was writing them down, but as I was writing them down, I'm like, man, there's a lot of camps that they set up. And I kept writing and writing, and I was like, I know what I'm going to do. As soon as I got them all written down, I counted them. Guessed how many camps they camped while they were in the wilderness? Yep, it was 40. They had 40 different camps that they put up and took down, put up and took down, put up and took down. 40 of them while they were in the wilderness. Guess where their 41st camp was? It was on the other side of the Jordan. It was in the promised land. I was so excited to read that. I literally wrote them all down. I counted them. I counted them a second time. I've actually counted them about 4 times just to make sure. It was really 40 camps that the Israelites camped while they were in the wilderness. And what you need to know is they didn't necessarily camp for a whole year and move, camp for a year and move. They might be there for a few days, a few months. Then they were there for years, and then they moved their camp. So in that 40 years, they camped in 40 different places. And their 41st camp was the promised land. It was the promised land. That's why when you people are wearing these sweatshirts that have the number 41 on them. I would really like to have one of those sweatshirts. If there's anybody out there who would like to buy me a shirt that says it's my 41, I'll take it. But it is the 41st. Their 41st camp was the promised land. And I said all of that, and I was so excited about all that because I don't want you all to give up. Just because you're somewhere for 40 days, for 40 years, however long it is, there's always that next time. There's always the 41 where things change for you. So make sure you stick around. Don't give up. Number 41 is coming, and it's coming soon, and that is going to be your breakthrough year. So I just want to say thank you for listening, and this is Minister Deb Before the Throne Ministries. Thank you for listening.